Kev, thanks for tuning in to Mindful Mods. I'm actually redoing this intro. I initially did a review, unboxing and first impressions review, the Kramer Focus VT211S Strat style guitar. And my initial impressions were very good of it. Gave it a very good review. Since then, having done what I do with guitars, which is take them apart and have a look at the insides and that kind of thing, I've found a few problems with it and a theme with it. So and it's not as positive as the initial review I gave. So what I'm going to suggest you do is, if you've already seen the review, just skip to the end. If you haven't, enjoy it. As you'll see, I was quite excited by the guitar to start with. So here we go, starting off with the unboxing. Today I received a very large box. Here it is from Tom in Europe, containing, I hope, one of the lowest priced guitars on the market at the moment, made by quite a reputable company, Kramer. They make some really nice high-end guitars, played by many famous players, and they've relatively recently brought out this very low range of guitars called the Focus series. So my plan is to unbox this, have a quick look at it with you, and then I'm going to do a tone test with the guitar with no modifications. But for now, I want to see how bad is this guitar. It gets such a bad rap. I'm comparing it to lower end squires like the Bullet series, the Squires, and the lower end epiphones like the SL, which I enjoy playing, and even out of the box. And to see, is it worse than those guitars? Is your money better spent buying a Squire or an Epiphone than it is buying one of these Kramers? So let's see. Okay, first of all though, let's unbox it. Alright, so let's open this big box. Usually when I pick these up, the box doesn't make it to the unboxing, the outside box, because it doesn't fit in the car. Fun for the recycling centre, but it does keep the guitar safe. As usual with Tom and my instructions if I want to return anything. Alright, let's get rid of this big box. Here's the guitar. You can see it's got these Telecaster style knobs on there, which I think they're called knurled knobs. It's got what feels like a standard import switch on there, and it's HSS. The 211 stands for HSS, humbucker being 2 single coils together and another 2 single coils. So it comes with what looks like a pot metal, chrome covered pot metal bridge, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I was told that you could cut your hands on these fret ends, but I've seen much worse off Squires, much worse. And then this nice kind of colour-coded headstock here. And then for some reason, I never get this, why we need to see the tremolo springs, but there they are. So you can see, I guess, I don't understand the Kramer serial number thing, but that 20 stands probably for 2020, which means it's probably this year's model, and all the other stuff, I've no idea what that means. I guess I'm going to have to look at a decoder online. Made in China, in case you were wondering, which by no means these days means it's a bad guitar. In fact, one of my favourites, Music Supplies, Music Lily, is based in China, and I get some awesome stuff from them. Okay, so there we go. That's the guitar unboxed. I'm going to plug it in. I'll take a bit of the plastic off, plug it in, and see how it sounds. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to add this on the end of my review. I think I might do actually. I've just been taking the screws out and the pots knobs off so I can remove this plastic, and also so I can have a look under the pick guard. And I've taken off this knob, and the whole shaft, where are you? The whole shaft of the pot inside has come out. So that's pretty bad. I don't know what kind of pots though, I'll see in a second, but pretty unimpressed with that. There we go, I've got to replace the pot. You wouldn't want to have to do that if it was your first guitar. So there we go, I hope you enjoyed that. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I've since taken the guitar to pieces as I was pulling the pot knob off the pot being the volume or tone control. I think it was one of the tone controls, that the pot shaft just came away, which meant the pot was unusable. That for me, that's never happened to me before when I've been working on a guitar. So I was pretty disappointed about that, and I've had to change that pot thing. So I thought I'd redo this review. So I'll start on the good things about the guitar. It was quite nice out of the box. It looked nice. It was packaged well. It played nicely. It's got good pickups in it, and they sound nice. There's good materials used in the construction. So you've got a mahogany body and a maple neck that doesn't come on any guitars that I know of at this price point. Somebody I'm sure will correct me, but not that I've seen. When I started to try and lower the action on the strings to make it a bit more playable from my point of view and a bit faster across the fretboard, I realised that the fret wire that's been used, that's the wire in between each fret, hasn't been leveled properly. So that's going to be a bit of work to do, and as a result I can't get the action any lower than it was really when the guitar arrived in the box. So the tuners are bad. That for me is true of any guitar at this price point. They all seem to have these generic covered tuners. They're certainly not good enough for intermediate use or someone who just wants their guitar to stay in tune. However, the finish on the frets, in my experience on Squires and Epiphones, is much better. The string trees were just terrible. The string trees are the bits that go right at the top on the headstock, and they kind of retain the string and change the angle that the string comes off the tuner into the nut. Those were just unfinished basically. So what that meant was, over time and over not much time at all, assuming that all of the string trees that they put on the guitars are like that, you're just going to break strings at the string trees, because the edges of the string trees where the strings run through are not finished. So it's just jagged metal under there, so that's pretty bad. The nut is cheap plastic. It's not, I suppose, unusual at this price point, although I'm seeing more and more on Squires they're using synthetic bone, which, much as people will argue it's not as good as real bone, is much better than cheap plastic, and lasts a lot nicer and has a much better tonal qualities. The pots I mentioned are very, very cheap, and I can only imagine, I've nothing to back this up, but I will be very cautious about the switch as well and the other components, because electrical components, because if the pots are anything to go by, the switch won't last very long either. The screws, even down to the screws in the pickguard, when I took the pickguard off, I started, as I was turning the screw, in the Phillips, socket of the screw, if you like, they started breaking. So they're really, really cheap screws, so I've had to change all the screws on there when I put a new pickguard in. There's no conductive paint in the pickup cavity. This is the hollowed out bit of the guitar where the pickups and all the electronics go in. On Squires these days they paint it with conductive paint, and what that does is it creates something called a Faraday cage, which, along with shielding on or aluminium or copper wire on the pickguard, it creates a kind of cage which cuts down on noise, something called 60 cycle hum. So it's and there's no shielding whatever in the pickup cavity, so that's another way in which money's been saved. Overall, and on average, you've got a better body material being used, and neck material. What they've done is that has been offset with extremely, in my opinion, extremely cheap components throughout the guitar. So all the extra bits seem to be cheap, and that's not true of Squires, and that's not true of Epiphones at the same price point. Whilst you're not getting the materials, the same materials being used, there might be cheaper materials, basswood, paulownia, whatever it is that's being used in the body. What you're getting is a much better quality components being installed from the get-go, so which means the guitar's much more playable for much longer. I mean, they're not amazing components, but they're very serviceable. I think for someone who modifies guitars like me, it's not a problem, and I can work on the neck and I can work on the frets, and I can get that working well, not a bother for me. But if you're buying this as your first guitar, or you're buying this as a spare guitar or something like that, I would only guess that it won't last very long before it breaks, and you're going to have to take it to someone to fix it. If you use a tech or a luthier, it's going to get very expensive very quickly, and what you'll end up doing is throwing it out, so someone like me can go around and snap it up for not much money. So twos and fros, you've got a good well-constructed guitar. I think it's machined pretty well. From a woodwork point of view and a paintwork point of view, it's good. And for a modder, I think it's a great purchase. So if you don't mind working on nearly everything that isn't, done by a machine in the workshop, then it's great. It's a great guitar, and it's a lot cheaper than a kit with the same body. But for everyday use, I wouldn't recommend it. I just wouldn't recommend it for a beginner. You're much better off buying a Harley Benton or a squire or an epiphone, because what you're going to get is a guitar that's going to last longer, be sellable after 5 or 6 years, rather than a guitar that's going to need somebody who knows what they're doing to work on it. So there we go. Slightly disappointing, I have to say, having initially really enjoyed the guitar, but there we go. So I thought I'd redo this just so you all get a fair crack of the whip at this guitar. So yeah, some other things coming up, various reviews. I'm going to be reviewing a new brass block which is just coming out from Music Lily. I am going to be reviewing some Wilkinson M series. No, they're not Wilkinson M series, they are Music Lily Ultra Jinho made tuners, 19-to-1 tuners on that same Kramer guitar. I'm also going to be putting in tone testing the Wilkinson overwound Alnico 5 bridge humbucker pickup, as well as a couple of Warman Texas triple hot pickups, which I'm going to put in the middle of the neck just to offset the power of the humbucker a little bit. So that's all coming up, I'm sure, and other things. Do hit subscribe, hit like if you like the video, and I'll catch you next time on Mindful Mods.